President Donald Trump outlined 4 objectives to the massive military operation underway against Iran. First, to destroy the country's long-range ballistic missile program, annihilate its navy, ensure it can never develop a nuclear weapon, and no longer fund proxy groups in the region.
This was our last best chance to strike what we're doing right now and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime.
Democrats are slamming the administration, accusing Trump of starting a war without congressional approval. Here's House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
We've seen this wannabe king try to rip away Congress's power of the purse. We've managed to reverse that. And we're going to do the same thing as it relates to reclaiming Congress's power with respect to matters of war and peace.
U.S. lawmakers are expected to hold a war powers vote later this week. Willie Lowry, CBC News, Washington.
And finally, a Winnipeg-based travel consultant says travelers should feel confident about taking trips to Mexico again. Many tourists canceled after violence broke out around Puerto Vallarta when a cartel leader was killed. Max Johnson says Mexico is a very large country and life is returning to normal. He suggests it's safe to travel there while being cautious.
In the west coast of Mexico, you're far more likely to be affected by an earthquake than you are by another outbreak of this kind of violence. It can happen, of course, but the probability is very small.
Johnson says Mexico is still a good destination at a time when travel options are shrinking because of politics or recovery from natural disasters. That is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local news is at 1:30.
Thank you very much, Josh.
You're welcome.
Josh Crabb with your CBC Local News, 12:33. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM in Winnipeg, everywhere on the CBC Listen app. We are also streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. We're going to get to the forecast in just a minute, but just want to mention what our call-in is today. We're talking about the conflict in the Middle East. It is in the headlines. There have been many new developments since the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran over the weekend. We're asking you, how closely are you watching the developments in the Middle East? How concerned are you, if you are at all? What do you want to know about what's happening? Give us a call here on Radio Noon or text us. You can also send your comments to us via YouTube. Here's the numbers: 204-780-0893, 204-780-0893. Text us at 204-588-7355, 204-588-7355. You can also message us on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. We're going to get to that call-in just a moment, but first, let's talk about the forecast. Temperatures warming up today compared to what we experienced over the weekend. So today in Winnipeg, mix of sun and cloud. Wind southwest at 20, becoming northeast this afternoon. Looking at a high of -1. Tonight, mainly cloudy. That northeast wind continues, a low of -11. Mainly cloudy tomorrow with a high of -5. Looks like temperatures are going to kind of warm up a little bit, but we do have some snow in the forecast. Wednesday, we're looking at a cloudy sky, high of -5. Thursday, -4 with snow expected on Thursday evening. Friday, mix of sun and cloud and a high of -3. And then we're looking at a +3 possibly for Saturday under a mix of sun and cloud. For Brandon, sunshine today becoming a mix of sun and cloud. As that increasing cloud moves in, a high of -3. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of -14. Tomorrow, mainly cloudy, high of -4. Thompson, mainly cloudy for you today, but windy. That wind is already picking up for you right now. Northwest gusting to 50. Looking at a high of -20 with that wind chill, feels more like -36, so there is the risk of frostbite. Tonight, a few clouds with increasing cloud after midnight and periods of light snow, low of -32. Tomorrow, light snow, but ending by the early afternoon, and a high of -20. Churchill today, near blizzard. Northwest wind 40 gusting to 60, high of -25. Again, risk of frostbite as that wind chill could feel more like -40. Tonight, that blizzard ending this evening and then clearing. Looking at a low of -33, and then tomorrow mainly sunny and a high of -27. Wind chill could feel like -47 in the morning. Some current conditions right now around the province. Brandon, partly cloudy, -8. That wind really picking up in Churchill, blowing snow. Wind chill feels like -46. Northwest wind at about 50 right now, but your temperature is at -28. In Thompson right now, drifting snow at -22 with a northwest wind gusting to 40. And in Winnipeg, it is partly cloudy right now, -5 at the airport, -4 at the Forks, northwest wind at 7. It is 12:36 now. The conflict in the Middle East is ramping up after the U.S. and Israel began their attacks on Iran over the weekend. U.S. President Donald Trump said he decided to carry through on the attacks after nuclear talks between the U.S. and Iran ended without a deal.
To the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take.
The attack killed Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Israel also is involved in the conflict with cross-border attacks between Israel and Hezbollah militants in Lebanon. All this has much of the Middle East and the world on edge. So on today's call-in, we're inviting you to ask your questions. What do you want to know about the conflict in the Middle East? How closely are you watching the developments? What concerns do you have? Give us a call, or maybe you don't have concerns at all. Give us a call, 204-780-0893, 204-780-0893. You can text us at 204-588-7355, 204-588-7355. You can also share your comments via CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. We are streaming the call-in there as well. Now, our next guest studies the intersection of international relations and international law. Bryan Peeler has a PhD in political science. He's also associate head of the Department of Political Science at the University of Manitoba and joins me now via Zoom. Good afternoon. Welcome to the show, Bryan.
Hi, Marjorie. Thanks very much for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. We have a caller who joins us. We're going to ask our caller to hold tight. Going to start off with some questions here for Bryan. So there's been a lot of developments, Bryan. It seems like something's changing every minute, every hour on this since the U.S. and Israel first attacked Iran on the weekend. First of all, your take on what's been happening so far.
Well, my take here is that these are illegal strikes. Illegal uses of force, we will call them in international law. Under the United Nations Charter, you can only use force in self-defense or collective self-defense that's authorized by the United Nations. This is neither of those two things. The United States or Israel hasn't suffered an armed attack from Iran. So, under international law, these attacks are illegal. The Iranian responses against, I guess they've attacked the Gulf states as well, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, for example. These are also illegal strikes. These states are not involved, haven't used force against Iran. So again, there's unfortunately illegal activities happening all over the place at the moment.
I want to go back a little bit. The United States stated that this had to do with nuclear weapons in Iran. Yeah. But what other reasons did the U.S. give in their attack against Iran?
Yeah, that's the major reason. And of course, we need to keep in mind that we were told several weeks ago that the Americans had, I believe the term was obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities. So it's kind of strange that we'd have to use force again to go after something that's already been obliterated. I think, if we recall from the attacks in June of last summer against when the Israeli-Iran war back then. I think the thought here was that Iran's military forces, its nuclear capabilities had been significantly reduced such that they were vulnerable to an attack, again, by the U.S. and Israel. And there is some news reporting that both Israel and Saudi Arabia had been pressuring the United States to attack Iran because its forces had been degraded. The nuclear talks that have been going on in Geneva seem to have been used as a pretext just to stall time because, again, these reports have been from about Israel and Saudi Arabia. These have been going on for about a month, apparently. So Guess, and it's so it's not clear what really is going on here.
We're speaking with Bryan Peeler, a PhD in political science and associate head of the Department of Political Science at the University of Manitoba. We're asking you, if you're watching the developments in the Middle East closely, what are some of the concerns, questions that you have about what's happening in the Middle East? Give us a call, 204-780-0893. Again, that's 204-780-0893. You can also text us at 204-588-7355, 204-588-7355. We're also streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel, so you can also leave a question or a comment there. And I want to get to our caller who joins us now on the line. Hi there, Fred. What's your comment and your question?
Yes, I guess I recognize that that Iran gained its independence from being a British colony after the Second World War, and its first elected prime minister was a guy by the name of Mossadegh, and he was a classic democratic leader. But he made some mistakes, and is nationalizing the oil resources. The United States overthrew the Mossadegh government with a military coup in 1953. And they put in place the Shah, which was a brutal dictator, stayed there until 1979, until the clergy revolted, led a revolt and overthrew the Shah. My question is, would this war be taking place today if the United States hadn't have destroyed that democracy back in 1953?
Interesting question. Thank you so much, Fred, for that question. Let's turn to Bryan now. I know that we talked a little bit before the show, Bryan, about the history back in the 1950s. And Fred has a good question there about the U.S. involvement.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. To be perfectly honest, could we tell if there would have been an invasion now? We really can't answer that question. But I mean, if you listen to Pete Hegseth and President Trump over the last day or two, right? They seem to think that this conflict started in 1979 with the overthrow of the Shah, right? And as your caller correctly points out, this group of Iranian politicians, clergy who are in power at the moment, they think this started in 1953 with the overthrow of the Mossadegh government. So there is a much longer history here that your caller is correct to point out. Like I said, would we be in this situation today? It's really hard to tell.
So the U.S. and Israel and Iran, and I mean, this involves, it's sounding like there are more and more countries in the Middle East that are getting involved in this. What are the chances that this is going to grow bigger and other countries are going to get involved in this?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Will it get a wider war in the Middle East? I'm not so sure. Again, this just goes back to the fact that I think the Iranians' military capabilities have been significantly degraded such that they won't be able to do much other than fire missiles, which is not insignificant. I think what you're most likely to see is more terrorist activity. I guess Hezbollah has now released a statement about the attack. So I'm not, a wider war in the Middle East. I'm not so sure that is what we're going to see, but there are going to definitely be more casualties. Iran's going to, use the missiles they have to attack American bases. I guess some shipping in the Gulf has been attacked in the last hour or two. So oil platforms are going to be targets. So I think that's what we're more likely to see.
We're speaking with Bryan Peeler, who is an associate head of the Department of Political Science at the University of Manitoba. Today, we're asking you, what concerns do you have about the conflict in the Middle East? What would you like to know? Give us a call, 204-780-0893, 204-780-0893. You can text us on 204-588-7355, 204-588-7355. You can also leave a comment or question on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel, where we are streaming live right now. Bryan, I want to go back to international law here. You touched on that a little bit. So what can happen, what will happen to the U.S. here if there is a violation of international laws?
The sad part here is that probably nothing will happen to the United States if this, which this is a violation of international law. We happen to live in a system where it's quite possible that powerful states are rarely held to account with respect to these sorts of uses of force. I mean, domestically, we need to keep in mind, because domestically, these strikes are not against Iran, are not particularly popular. The Trump administration is not popular right now in the United States. So, though the United States will probably not have consequences internationally, this particular government domestically will in all likelihood suffer political consequences, in the sense that the Republican Party may do quite poorly in the upcoming midterm elections. President Trump, if he thinks he's going to run again for an illegal third term, may try to do that again. But this brings up an interesting question about U.S. domestic politics, and if the next government in the United States decides it's going to finally start holding politicians who break the law, international law and domestic law, accountable, or if they're just going to sort of say, look, for Gerald Ford's famous phrase, our long national nightmare is over, and just pretend everything that had happened previously didn't happen.
It is 12:47, and we are talking to Bryan Peeler here, who is an associate head of the Department of Political Science at the University of Manitoba. And we're asking you about your questions, your comments about the conflict in the Middle East. What kind of concerns do you have? What do you want to know? 204-780-0893. Text us at 204-588-7355, or leave a comment on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. And we actually just got a text from Mary Jo. And Mary Jo says, Trump somehow believes once he bombs Iran, the people will be able to rise up and create the government they want. I saw tens of thousands of regime supporters in the square, all in support of the current regime. My question, how many Iranian guards exist, and will they just massacre those in favor of regime change, or will it become a civil war with those for the regime versus those against it? Bryan?
Yeah, an excellent point about bombing. These sorts of bombing campaigns don't really work. If anything, they create, as that example about if there are people coming out in Tehran, a kind of what we refer to as a rally around the flag effect. That we don't like our regime here either, but we don't want you bombing us. And like I said, these sorts of strikes rarely work. If you notice, what the United States did in Venezuela, they kidnapped the President Maduro. He's in jail in, I guess, in Florida, but the rest of the regime is still in effect. The Iranians also have planned for this sort of occurrence. That there are, there's the council is now meeting to decide who's going to become the next supreme leader. So. The question about, is this going to what is this going to do to Iranian domestic politics? We're really just going to have to wait and see. I guess there's news reporting that the leader of the Green Revolution, who had been under house arrest for the last 10 years, he's also been killed in one of these strikes. So it's not clear who the Americans think is going to take over here. And as you're correct to point out that the regime wants to stay in place. So they will probably kill protesters, just as we've seen over the last month or two with the protests in Iran. So when regimes feel that they are under a when they feel they are under an existential threat, they're going to do whatever it takes to stay in power.
Bryan, what is Canada's stance on this? I've been seeing that the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says that they're glad they're staying out of it. They're going to stay out of it. But where does Canada stand on this? What has the Prime Minister said?
Well, I guess the Prime Minister, in a statement on Saturday, released a kind of, it's a weak statement about standing with the Iranian people, going at wanting them to remove an oppressive regime. What seemed to stick out to everyone who's the political scientists and international lawyers I know, what sticks out here is the phrase that Canada supports the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. part of that statement. Now, the international lawyers I know were interpreting the supports the United States as we support these particular strikes, while the political scientists I know were saying supports the U.S., where they were interpreting that as, we're going to, as a politician, the prime minister needs to say we, support, removing the nuclear threat of Iran, but we also still have to deal with this president on a bunch of issues. So politically, we need to kind of keep our heads down. Again, like I said, I wasn't particularly impressed with that statement. Foreign Minister Anita Anand came out yesterday saying something about, a bit stronger statement about, Canada would like to see a diplomatic solution. And I guess the Global Affairs Canada, she also put out another statement today about how Canada wasn't consulted. And again, Canada's role in this? We're not that much of an important player in Middle East politics. Mm-hmm. But, how does this sit with Prime Minister Carney's Davos speech? Not about, this rupture in the international order. I would have liked to see a stronger statement from the Prime Minister.
So, Bryan, how long do you believe this conflict is going to go? Just seeing on our Newsnet channel, Trump says this could last 4 or 5 weeks, could be longer. How long do you see this happening?
Yeah, I guess there's even a new statement about how he said they might send troops to Iran. With this person, it's hard. It's really hard. I keep saying it's hard to know, but it is hard to know. If you think back to all the strikes we saw in these boats in Venezuela, from Venezuela, in the Caribbean, that were supposed to be bringing drugs to the United States. This administration likes to create. They see themselves as content creators for media. I don't know if they think about themselves as doing policy at all. And they don't think about the strategic implications of what they're doing. This conflict may just go on for as long as it occupies President Trump until someone else comes up with another topic they want him to consider. It's like he's listening to the next person in the room. This could, it could go on for several weeks because there's, like I said, the Israelis and the Saudis think this is probably the best time they have to remove the regime in Iran. But, so how much they push President Trump, I think that's going to determine how long this lasts.
Bryan, there seems to be something new coming out of this, a new development all the time. But what will you be watching very closely in the days and weeks to come about this conflict in the Middle East?
I'm going to be watching, like I said, if there's going to be an uptick in terrorist activities, just how long the Israeli government pressures the United States to keep up these attacks. What is going to happen to the price of oil, of course, because of this. So that's what I'm going to be looking at, I think, particularly with respect to terrorist activities.
Bryan, I really do appreciate you joining us today for the call-in conversation here on Radio Noon. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Well, thanks for having me, Marjorie.
Bryan Peeler is Associate Head of the Department of Political Science at the University of Manitoba. 12:54, and you're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. Winnipeg's own alt-pop dreamweaver Shea Wolf song Sunny Days is a radiant anthem of renewal and hope, capturing her signature blend of shimmering soundscapes and heartfelt emotion. Have a listen.
Sunny days. Sunny days, come find me. Sunny days, sweet honey child, the rain has come and it's poured. Sweet honey child,
That was Shay Wolf with Sunny Days. Well, you're listening to Radio Noon here. It is 12:57. Let's check in now with Julie Buckingham, who is hosting Up to Speed this afternoon. Hi, Julie.
Well, as we sit here in the sunshine at Studio 15, yes, looking forward to swapping chairs with you in a little bit as Faith Wendell is away until Friday. And we can tell you on Up to Speed, we will take further the conversation about what security guards can and can't do. We'll take you out to Assiniboine Community College where they have a training program and find out exactly what they legally can and can't do.
Thank you very much, Julie.
You're welcome.
Julie Buckingham hosting Up to Speed this afternoon. Tune in to CBC Radio 1 starting at 3 o'clock. Well, thank you so much for joining us today here on Radio Noon. Thank you to our wonderful crew. Our tech is Abby Adiyemi, our associate producer, Chidi Akuma, Darren Morash running our YouTube stream today. And also our show director is May McKillop. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. And stay tuned here to CBC Radio 1 coming up next, the next chapter. Have a good one.